So a huge part of our ministry is reaching people in unplanned pregnancies. And that includes women finding themselves in the unplanned pregnancy, as well as the men who are walking alongside them.
Bethany is there to assist with an expectant parent with any trials or tribulations that they might come across.
Basically, I work with the parents that are pregnant, so the mom as well as the father. And it's basically to de-stress them, de-escalate them in every area of their life. So they may need help with food, they may need help with shelter, they may need help with clothing, maternity clothes, help them finding a job. They may already have kids and they need extra help with Pampers and formula or whatever have you. So whatever that can de-stress them and make them feel a lot more comfortable during their pregnancy, that's part of my job.
Something that I personally am passionate about because I am a birth father, and I kind of saw the ways that Bethany was striving to give birth fathers a voice too, and just kind of provide services for the whole gamut. So it's not just about adoption and placing a baby. They care about everyone involved in the entire scenario, in particular these babies.
And the idea is that we can sustain their pregnancy, and we're providing services so that there's a good outcome for the baby, the best outcome possible.
The impact in utero can really show lifetime effects on that child.
When I first meet a client, the first thing I do is judge their level of stress. So I may ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how stressful are you today? Not yesterday or maybe even tomorrow, but today, like right now. And they may say, Lewis, I'm a 9. And at that point, I go through a checklist, like, why are you a 9? Is it housing? Is it the father of your child? Are you having issues in that department? The other kids, I mean, what exactly is giving you your stress level at this point? And I try to attack those things first. And usually it works, honestly. Like, they may say, I'm homeless. I have nowhere to sleep tonight. So of course your stress level is going to be a 10 when you don't have anywhere to sleep tonight. And at that moment, I make sure that she's not worried about where she has to go to sleep.
Yeah, typically they're pretty overwhelmed because this was something they didn't plan. The men and women who come to us in this Expectant Parent Advocacy Program may not know ultimately what they're going to do, and that's okay with us because we can provide services for them, and we can provide an advocate for them and support for them with no strings attached. The Expectant Parent Advocacy Program, it does not have an adoption agenda. It's not like you come to us and we say, we'll help you, but we really want you to think about doing an adoption. That's not what this is about.
We help and continue to help the expectant parents, but not expecting them to put their child up for adoption.
As we looked at other places that you can adopt a child, a lot of them are just adoption agencies. They only exist to serve somebody's needs if they're willing to place a child for adoption. The thing that I love about Bethany is that adoption is not a prerequisite for service. You'd be really surprised, but adoption is a very, very small portion of what Bethany Christian Service actually does.
It's really a basic human right to be able to parent your child, and so if that's a desire someone has and they want to work toward that, then we want to make that happen. Some of the clients that are in that program do want to consider adoption, and that's the language we use with them. We say to them, you can consider adoption, you can consider parenting, of course you're going to do that. But the idea really is that the decision isn't made until after the baby's born. And the reason that is because we really like the idea that the mom connects with her baby, because we know that that's better for the baby, especially the brain development of the baby. And a lot of brain development happens in utero.
First and foremost, they're about sustaining pregnancies.
So I had this particular client, and I knew she had substance abuse issues, and she didn't really want to address those or talk about them. So there was never a connection because there was no trust, honestly. So I never forget, I get a call from Marlene on a Friday night. I'm about to go watch a basketball game with friends, and she's like, can you meet Kim? And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, yes, I can meet her because you're the boss, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I meet with Kim, and at this point, I had I was just going through something. I'm like, I'm just gonna be completely honest with Kim and just let her know this is where I'm at. This is how I feel. So I said, hey, do you play a sport? She said, yeah, I played a sport in high school. I was like, what'd you play? She said, basketball and volleyball. I said, okay, perfect. I played basketball as well. We can relate on basketball. I said, can you imagine your first game and you prepared, as much as you got, you guys went to practice, you get to the venue, You get undressed, you're starting, it's about to be tip off, and you already start the game 20 points behind. I was like, that's your kids right now. She was pregnant with twins, actually. And I was like, until you start making better decisions for yourself, you have to put them first. And she just broke down. Like, she just broke down, and then I felt bad, like, wow, did I say something wrong? And she said, Lewis, like, now I trust you. She placed them with a wonderful family. And to this day, like, she calls me, like, all the time, once a week at least, just to see how I'm doing, and I check on her to see how she's doing. But that's one of those stories where I was like, wow, the father actually was incarcerated, and I actually went to the prison to explain him the whole situation. And during actually the court case, he phoned in and he said, if it wasn't for Bethany, I'm not sure if this would have been the best situation for my children. But I am so happy that Lewis came and Bethany supported him and supported me. And even though I'm incarcerated, I feel like that's the greatest thing that could happen to my kids. So I left from that story thinking like, okay, I'm in the right ministry, I'm in the right place.
We can take someone who's really in a hopeless position and give them a lot of hope. And part of that has to be more than just emotional, kind of being on the sidelines and saying, we'll emotionally support you. It has to be things like helping them with their rent, and it has to be helping them with food, because those are the things that are probably so overwhelming to them that they're like, I don't know how I can do this. So that if we can help them even with one thing like their rent or maybe with food every month, and that makes it possible for them to sustain that pregnancy, that's a profound mission. And so the only way we can do that is that we have donations for the Expectant Parent Advocacy Program, because how we have set this up ethically is that we have a domestic infant adoption program. The persons that are in that program who are hoping to adopt have a fee-for-service agreement, but none of their fees go toward the expenses in our Expectant Parent Advocacy Program. Those are separate programs, and we do that intentionally so that the idea is that someone's not compensating someone and then adopting their baby. And I say this to expectant mothers all the time. I say, even though we're helping with your rent, if we're helping and we give you Walmart cards to buy groceries, it doesn't have anything to do with it you're considering adoption. And the way that we pay for those services is through donations. And I tell them we have dessert auctions, and people spend lots of money for a cheesecake. And that money for that cheesecake goes to help you pay your rent.
Yeah, I think that's what I want people to know, that the money they give is doing some pretty incredible stuff.